Welcome to episode 215 of the Various Sunday Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from the Vault Studio on the beautiful campus of Grace College and Theological Seminary by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man who is still recovering from his rowdy Super Bowl celebration, John Scott Sloat.
Very rowdy. Very rowdy.
Yes. So I understand you were not able to attend Super Bowl party festivities.
Well, I mean, wherever I am is a Super Bowl
Right.
party, you know, so.
Yes.
But yeah, Andrew and I stayed home, watched the game. Andrew went to bed at the middle of the third quarter and said, "Tell me if somebody scores." Yeah, right. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, we'll get into the game shortly, but the first quarter was a bit of a snooze fest.
It really was. The best part of the first quarter was the commercials.
Which we'll also talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before we do.
So did you you said you made some dip.
So my wife made some dip.
Okay. What kind of dip? We're talking spinach artichoke? We're talking
No, it was just artichoke.
Buffalo
So
chicken?
my wife does a artichoke dip that's like artichokes, cream cheese, mozzarella, and then it's got lemon juice in it. So it's got a real tang to it that is really, really quite good.
All right.
Very, very good dip.
Yeah.
What was at your party?
So we hosted our small group, and we had chicken wings that were smoked by Jordan in Winona Lake. And then he brought several sauces that you could put on it. So you used a dry rub.
Yeah.
And then delicious. Absolutely delicious. And they also brought a sheet cake that was like a Reese's frosting kind of sheet cake.
They're a good snack family.
Oh, they are. They are legit.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, my son made buffalo chicken dip.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did he call Heidi?
He did not.
Okay.
He did not.
Okay.
He relied upon my wife's assistance in this endeavor.
Wow.
Yeah. Kate made a spinach artichoke dip. We had like a charcuterie board of cheeses and sliced meats, and crackers. And,
Were they salted meats?
yes. Salted meats, yes.
Lovely.
The best. What else? Man, there was a bunch of stuff. And chips and that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
Was our British friend present?
He was at a different Super Bowl party.
Okay.
He's moved out of our basement. I don't know if you knew that. He's moved out.
I feel like I did know that. Yeah. But I knew he was like, at times, still popping in.
Oh, sure. He did pop in right before the Super Bowl to pick up some stuff. But
Okay.
yeah. If you would like to contact the show and ask John for his recipe, or his wife's recipe, really, you can find us on Twitter at VNSPod. You can email the show, variousandsundrypodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube, and we would love for you to leave a 5-star rating, and a review would be nice too.
Would be great.
Yeah. Okay, John, let's talk some sports. Obviously, we're going to talk Super Bowl here. The Chiefs defeat the 49ers 25-22 in overtime.
Yep.
And Patrick Mahomes was named the MVP. So
It felt like he was named MVP because there wasn't a better candidate.
yeah,
You know, like
I mean, I don't
maybe the kicker hit that 57-yarder that
yeah. I mean, the 49ers kicker kicked 2 field goals beyond 50 yards, but then he mishit the extra point that got blocked that was very significant.
incredibly. Yeah.
And so you can't name him as the MVP.
Travis Kelce had a couple of big catches down in the final drive in the fourth quarter to tie the game.
Yeah.
But, yeah, nobody really stood out.
Agreed. Yeah.
I'm just glad McCole Hardman didn't get that because, you know, he caught the game-winning touch.
He
you know
did.
he was on the Jets to start the season.
I am aware, yes.
Oh, what a disaster.
I was going to ask you how that made you feel.
Gosh. Oh, Jets Twitter was going crazy.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I think the irony is I saw somebody post on Twitter that basically the Chiefs ran the same play to beat the Eagles when they beat them in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Ago.
Yep.
And
that was just last year.
Was that last year?
That was just last year. Yeah.
I mean, you would think that was some with the level of scouting that's done in the NFL. I mean, and maybe they knew it might be coming, but just didn't defend it properly. That can happen too. Like coaches can, jump up and down and tell you, well, yeah, we told our guys to be ready for this, and they just misread it or just didn't defend it properly, kind of thing. So I did want to talk a little bit about some things that happened in the game. Now, they changed the overtime rules in the playoffs. Was it 2 years ago now, I think?
Mm-hmm. That no matter what, both teams get a possession. Mm-hmm.
But this is obviously the first time this has happened in the Super Bowl since the rule change. And something that I saw that I thought was interesting that came out was multiple of the Chiefs players were saying, oh, yeah, we talked about this very scenario about now with the rule change.
You want the ball second.
You want to play defense first, so then you know exactly what you need to do on offense. Just like in the college overtime rules, where if you win the toss, you always choose to play defense first because that way you know exactly what you need to do.
Yep.
Whether it's, well, we only need a field goal, or actually we need a touchdown. And if you score a touchdown, you have the chance then to go for 2 to win it rather than just kick the extra point to tie it. So it was – and then by contrast, many of the San Francisco players were saying, we didn't know what the rules were until we saw them on the Jumbotron after regulation during the commercial break, basically.
Yikes.
Which is not a good reflection on the coaching.
No. There is I do have a difficulty with there being different overtime rules in the regular season and the playoffs. Like that is difficult.
Well, but it happens in the NHL. They do that way in the NHL.
That's true. NHL's they're like sudden death though. First one you score and the game's over.
Right. Yeah. I just think I like the fact that both teams are guaranteed to get the ball.
I like that too. Yeah. Otherwise, you end up with the Tom Brady driving the field scenario against the Chiefs a number of years ago. Do you remember that?
Yes. But I just it seemed like the Chiefs were ready for that, and so even though they lost the toss, I mean, San Francisco picked to have the ball first because that's what it used to make sense to do.
Sure, because if you score a touchdown,
you win.
That's right.
Yeah, so that seemed like a coaching mistake. And then somebody else pointed out, I didn't realize this, that Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons when they blew that 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl, however many years ago that was.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know that, which, that also is an interesting dynamic. Now in the 2 Super Bowls he's coached in, he's blown leads. Not like that.
Yeah.
But, it didn't, with maybe the exception of the trick play that San Francisco ran to score the touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like it wasn't the most compelling football until maybe the very end when it's like, okay, everything's on the line, and then both teams started moving the ball.
Yeah, that last quarter of the game was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
The first quarter was terrible. Most of the first half was pretty rough.
Yeah.
The trick play was very, very cool.
Yeah, it was well done. Well done.
It almost got ruined.
Yes.
On a couple of moments.
Yeah.
But it worked out.
It did. So
I thought Brock Purdy played pretty well.
He did. Yeah. The 49ers did not lose because of him. There were a couple of times where it looked like in some big moments that the Chiefs just blitzed the heck out of him, like sent everybody.
Sent the house, yeah.
And, what's the quarterback supposed to do if they're sending 6 or 7 and you've got 5 in to block? Like, you just have to try to throw the ball away or hope that you have a hot read that can work quickly enough.
Speaking, so what did you think of Tony Romo? Make it on the color.
I mean, Romo is. I feel like Romo's become a caricature of himself. That when he first started doing it, people were like, "Oh, I really like this guy because he's enthusiastic, but he's also like really pointing out insightful things about what the defense is doing or how the quarterback should read that defense or whatever." And now it feels like he's almost just kind of doubled down with, "Oh, well, this is what people like me for, so I'm just going to unnaturally do more of that," so that he's almost become, I think, a bit of a caricature.
He needs to have some time where he doesn't talk. You know, like I think when they scored the touchdown at the end of the game, when you're and you have the degree in this, so correct me if I'm wrong, you want to let that breathe.
Yeah.
You want to let it happen, and he talked through the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, after you make the initial announcement, like Nance does I forget the specific wording he used, but for the Super Bowl or whatever he says, then you want to let it breathe for about 5 seconds.
I imagine it feels like an eternity.
Yeah, but drink in the crowd cheering, drink in the celebration. Let them flash to the losing team's bench and you see the disappointment and the heartbreak setting in.
Yeah.
All those things. Like, let it breathe for a minute. And then you maybe circle back to, the historic nature of the win or all that sort of stuff. But it felt like Tony Romo was like, let's just break down that play right now. Like, I need to show you the breakdown of the play. Like, this is not the time to go X's and O's, Tony. Just let it.
Well, maybe Tony Romo would know that if he'd have won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, fair enough. So, were you satisfied with the number of times that they flashed to Taylor Swift in the box?
So I have way less issue with them flashing to Taylor Swift, and it feels like a good slice of America does. So it did not bother me. In fact, I saw one very pro Taylor Swift person say, "Show Taylor, you cowards," on Twitter. And that was sort of my feeling. I didn't feel like they showed her enough. And then toward the end of the game, they showed her quite a bit more. I don't think they showed her at all in the first quarter.
I don't remember.
They showed her pregame.
Well, part of that, though, is Kelsey didn't do anything in the first half.
That's right.
I think he was targeted once.
Yeah, and then he screamed at Andy Reid.
Yes, that was great. I mean,
the memes that came out of that were fantastic.
It's so good. Yeah. It's going to be overdone very quickly, but it's excellent. Which, I mean, it's one thing that he yelled at Andy Reid, but he like kind of bumped him.
Yeah, nearly knocked him over.
Yeah. I mean, I know you're Travis Kelce, but that was over the top.
Yep.
And that's one of those things that's just going to disappear other than the meme.
Yep.
Because they won. Mm-hmm. If they don't win that game,
that's a huge story.
That's a big story in the, what are Andy Reid and Travis Kelce going to do to repair their relationship? Is it over in Kansas City for Travis Kelce? Because, all that disappears because the Chiefs won. So, all right. Anything else on the game?
Anything else on the game? A lot of turnovers. There were 3 fumbles. Maybe more.
Maybe more. Maybe 4.
4 fumbles and an interception.
Yep.
Sounds like a bad movie.
Exactly. All right. Let's talk commercials.
Okay.
Now, I didn't pay a ton of attention to the commercials, to be honest. So not many of them stood out to me. There were a few.
The one I really enjoyed was the Dunkin' Donuts commercial.
Now, there was a conversation going on that I was a part of during that, and I didn't go back and watch it. But I noticed, oh, wow, there's Ben Affleck, there's J-Lo, there's Matt Damon, there's Tom Brady.
Yep. That was, and they had the track shoots on that said Dun Kings.
Yeah.
That apparently go on sale Monday, today.
Of course.
Day of recording.
Of course.
Not that I'm going to buy one, but
if they weren't, I'm sure
it was very funny.
I'm sure they're stupid expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I might be willing to spend some money to see you in one. Yeah, I mean, I'm partial to. I enjoy the E-Trade Baby commercials. I thought the pickleball one was all right, not their best work, but
Yeah.
So I was kind of partial to that one just because the genre category I appreciate.
Beyonce trying to break the internet. I thought that was funny.
It was all right.
Trying to think of anything else that really stood out.
I mean, I appreciated the Baja Blast commercial with what is her name? The woman, the actress that plays April Ludgate on Parks and Rec.
Oh yeah.
I'm blanking on her name. It's like Aubrey Plaza or something.
I think that's right.
Something like that. And there was a cameo at the end of that ad by Nick Offerman, the guy that plays Ron Swanson. So that was interesting. And then the other – this is more of a trend that was interesting to me. There were two separate commercials that tapped into the resurgence of Suits.
Yeah.
There was the T-Mobile one where they had the characters who played Harvey and Mike, the two main characters really in Suits. And then there was the Judge Judy spoof that had the characters that played Jessica Pearson and Louis Litt and Donna from that. So,
yeah, I'm scrolling through the commercials and I remember a number of these. Michael Cera's commercial was okay. He sounded like a human adult, competent human adult, which he never does in his movies.
Yeah. I mean, I think the most obvious one that
So before we get to the most obvious one, what did you make of the two commercials they did for NFL bullying, where they had these big tough NFL guys talk about bullying in elementary schools?
I don't know. Part of me wondered, like, how many of those NFL players were the bullies?
Yes, that was exactly my thought. I went, oh, that's the bully.
Yeah.
He's reading it. This is like the ultimate taunt.
Yeah.
This is going to cause some guy in middle America who's
PTSD.
like, I thought I left this behind.
Right.
This is my bully.
Yeah, exactly. Though, I mean, I feel like what they could have done, and maybe this is just me thinking from a Christian perspective, if you had some of those big, tough NFL guys basically saying, I was a bully, I feel terrible about it. I wish I hadn't been that guy. I'm trying to be better. Please don't follow in my stupid ways when I was a youth. That would have been more compelling to me than –
Or send the NFL player with the kid to school and have him be his protector.
Yeah, okay.
I think that would be a fun commercial.
Yeah, that'll be a Netflix series before you know it.
Yeah.
All right, we have to get to the obvious commercial that we have to talk about.
The He Gets Us commercial written by the Charis Fellowship.
Well, all right, you better unpack that before we get in trouble with that.
Yeah, not actually written by the Charis Fellowship, but they had the foot washing, which Charis Fellowship churches, if you're unaware, do.
That is a pretty significant distinctive of Charis Fellowship churches.
Yes.
So what do you think Zach in Ohio thought the instant he saw the start of that commercial?
So I texted him.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did, and he didn't see it.
Okay. Well, he's going to have to go back and watch that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thoughts on the He Gets Us commercial, foot washing with the tagline, what was it? Jesus didn't preach hate. He washed people's feet. Was that the second part of the tagline?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
It seemed to me to be a commercial with saying like, hey, having moral absolutes doesn't matter. That seemed to be the gist of the commercial. Like, hey, you need to get over having moral absolutes and just love people. Was that your sense of the commercial? Like I see on Twitter people screaming, this isn't for you, it's for other people.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's helpful for other people either, you know?
Yeah. Two thoughts on that. The bigger picture one. Replacing one distortion of who Jesus is with another distortion of who Jesus is not helpful.
Yeah.
Like my understanding is that the whole impetus is our culture doesn't understand who Jesus is, and so we want to give people a fresh glimpse into who Jesus is. Well, that's the glimpse you're giving them is just as selective and distorted as the one you claim to be responding to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know how that helps.
Yeah.
And then the second, more specific, is define hate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there a more ambiguous term? Like, honestly,
yeah.
What is considered hate speech not in the U.S., like legally speaking, but in some countries,
or in popular culture, even
advocating for a biblical sexual ethic, that's considered hate speech. But so when you leave it so generic as Jesus didn't teach hate, it allows the listener to fill in whatever they think hate is and go, oh, so Jesus isn't against that. So I just think it's utterly ambiguous. And then the other piece of it that I think has been helpful that some people have pointed out is all of the sort of unexpected dynamics of who's washing whose feet kind of thing were in one direction politically and socially.
Mm-hmm.
That
I did not pay that close attention to it.
That all of the like, oh wow, there's a policeman washing the feet of an African American man.
Yeah.
Well, that's clearly angled one direction. Here's a person washing someone's feet outside of an abortion clinic with
mm-hmm.
protesters in the background. Well, what's the message there? Jesus wasn't one of these mean, pro-lifers. It was just – it felt like all of the examples were where is someone washing the MAGA hat wearer's feet?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're really trying to get across the transcend culture and politics kind of stuff that the gospel gets at, why did it feel very slanted towards one particular political / cultural perspective? So anyway, we've done a whole episode. We did a whole episode last year on He Gets Us. Not immediately after the Super Bowl, but soon after.
Yeah, pretty quick after.
And
they hosted a breakfast at the Super Bowl as well.
Yeah.
So like one of the main I don't know the plural of breakfast.
Breakfasts?
Breakfasts.
Something like that.
Second breakfast. Anyway, they hosted one of the main ones and had, I saw one of their board members tweeting about it.
Yeah. But one more piece on this. It would be one thing, because I see people trying to make the argument of, well, you can't communicate everything about Jesus in a 30-second spot. Agreed.
Fair.
You can't.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And I think it's legitimate at one level to highlight one particular aspect of Jesus' life, his teachings, in a 30-second spot. Absolutely. But then that website you're sending people to had better be rock solid. It had better be clear on what the gospel is. It had better be clear on the full range of who Jesus is and what he claimed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not. It is intentionally mealy-mouthed.
Yeah. It's been a hot minute since I've been on their website, but not even willing to say like Jesus was fully God and fully man on the website, being like, we believe that, but you don't necessarily have to,
Well, and all of this, like the whole premise of he gets us, and it's more than he gets us. It's pretty much he's one of us.
Yeah.
If you're the certain one, if you're the right kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
Where is there any element of Jesus demands that you surrender your self-focus and your idolatry and submit to his lordship. Like, Jesus is going to change you. Whoever you are and however you come to him, whether you're a, hard right, MAGA flag waver, or you're a hard left progressive, Jesus is going to say, you need to change now that you've come to know me.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that? It just feels like it's all right. Jesus is kind of one of us. He gets us.
Yeah.
So anyway, interesting to see who's defending the ad on Twitter and who's not, who's criticizing it. That's an interesting little dynamic there. We got to move on.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right. So since today is during the week of Valentine's Day, I have asked our resident church historian, John Sloat, to have a little discussion here about the man, the myth, the legend behind Valentine.
Yeah, probably the latter two out of those three.
The myth and the legend, yeah.
Yeah, the myth and the legend is kind of where we're going to dwell today. There is someone loud in the hallway. I don't know what's happening.
Everybody wants on the podcast. By the way, we did try to get our Super Bowl correspondent
on today,
Will Dawson,
and it didn't work.
And he was not available to join us. But he suggested the possibility of joining us because he's going to go to the Final Four. So maybe we can get him on
that sounds great.
after the Final Four.
That sounds wonderful.
All right, back to Valentine.
So, so Saint Valentine is – I want to call him a quasi-historical figure. I'm not actually sure how to talk about him well. So let me just do my best, and we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of reliable evidence. So what we seem to know from some writings that I don't have references to, but exist, that he lived sometime in like the 200s.
All right.
That this was a guy that. I think we could say with some relative certainty that he lived.
Okay.
And was a Christian.
So should we engage in the quest for the historical Valentinus?
Yes, I like that idea. So most of our writing about him comes from the medieval period. So be thinking 500, 600, 100. So hundreds of years after he actually would have lived. And his real name would have been Valentinus. He would have been so part of the hard part is we kind of see three different stories that pop up about Valentinus, and we don't know if it's one guy or three guys at most. So we're talking about a potential of one person to three people. And some of these I think are kind of very much you'll go like, oh yeah, that's legend, basically. Others you'll be like, well, that's just weird enough to be true, So, so the main story, the one that everybody talks about, is that Let me start with this. So, during the reign of Claudius II, so not Claudius from the Judeo-Claudians, but Claudius II, who would have been like 4 or 5 emperors after Marcus Aurelius.
Okay.
But before Diocletian.
So sometime in the 3rd century.
Yeah. 250s. He was emperor for about like 23 months, I think.
Oh, wow.
So not a long time.
Yeah.
Supposedly, he needed to put together men for his army to go take on supposedly the Goths. Mm-hmm. And, wanted single men without families. Mm-hmm. And so he outlaws marriage.
It's a bold strategy.
It's a very bold strategy and quite unethical in my estimation. In order to promote these single men, to say, come to the army, do your service, sort of thing.
Could they get rewarded with marriage after serving?
That I'm not sure. And in fact, let me just press on.
Okay.
Valentinus was a priest in Rome. It did not like this, and so would perform these illegal marriages, these secret marriages of young couples.
All right.
because he believed in the sacrament of marriage. He believed marriage was a positive thing. And so he did this. Claudius finds out about this, imprisons him. And while in the midst of being in prison, young couples are writing him letters while in prison. And this is where we get Valentines. And they're giving him these letters while he's in prison. And Claudius gets so fearful that he chops his head off.
Oh.
And there is of course a church erected where he was beheaded.
Obviously, yeah.
As one does.
Yeah.
When you're Catholic, that's what happens.
Yeah.
So that's one story. Real quick, I couldn't find any evidence. Now, I did not do a deep dive on Claudius II. I cannot find any evidence in Roman history that he outlawed marriage.
All right.
So that's tough,
Yeah.
Or that, you know quite a bit about the Roman army and the Roman Empire.
A little bit.
They took married men.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So even the story itself doesn't totally line up in, it doesn't necessarily pass the eye test.
Yeah.
But so is the medieval period, So that's one story. A second story sort of emerges where a priest in Rome named Valentinus is thrown in prison. Okay, so some similar pieces. Falls in love with the daughter of the jailer and writes letters to her and signs them from your Valentine or from your Valentinus.
Okay.
And so we sort of get this Valentine sort of thing. He's ultimately beheaded as well.
At what time frame are we talking?
Similar. They're all roughly in the same era.
So still 3rd century.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then finally, this last one. So there's a city to the north in Italy that I can't remember the name of it, where this individual Valentinus would have been a bishop, and he was a Gnostic preacher who would have said that marriage and sexual passion is a good thing in the Christian life.
Was it a good thing?
Yes. And
That
again does not compute, right?
makes sense.
So, take all of this with a very big grain of salt.
All right.
Was that one of them? How much is a mischaracterization? How much of it is real? What we do know is that the Catholic Church celebrates the 14th of February as the day of his beheading, the day Valentinus was killed. And he is the patron saint of lovers, as one would expect.
That would make sense.
And then my favorite part, people with epilepsy,
Okay.
which there are some stories of him healing people. And there's even one part I've read where he was also a physician while also being a priest.
But why
epilepsy?
Epilepsy.
I have no idea. And then finally, the patron saint of beekeepers.
Oh, well, obviously.
Which I could find no reason why he would be the saint of beekeepers as well. But it was on Catholic Encyclopedia somewhere.
Okay.
So responses to Valentine's, Saint Valentine.
I don't even know what to do with all of that. So do you and maybe you didn't do this kind of research. At what point did this become a holiday or a quote unquote holiday or a common cultural event where the 14th of February?
It's like the 600s, and it's medieval time, medieval period. When I say medieval time, I always think of medieval times. Have you ever seen this restaurant?
Yes.
Anyway, but yes, seems to be the medieval period where this sort of gets put in place and seems to replace the Roman pagan love festivals that would have been in a similar seat as well.
All right.
So it could be a holdover from that as well, and we're putting all this back on Valentinus, who was just a priest in Rome, or who knows?
And when well, that's when did Hallmark take it over? Probably, 50 years ago, something like that?
Yeah.
60 years ago?
Definitely after the onset of capitalism.
Well, yeah, for sure. For sure. It's an interesting sort of cultural phenomena. I assume when you were like an elementary school kid, did you do the Valentines? You wrote the little Valentines.
I think my mom wrote them and I handed them out. Yeah.
Okay.
I think every guy goes through that, right? Where you're just like, I don't want to do that.
No.
And so your mom does it for you.
Yeah.
You hand out candy, basically.
Yeah, I mean, when you're a kid, you're looking for the candy.
Absolutely. Another opportunity for candy.
Do you like the little kind of traditional hearts that are
The antacids?
Yeah, basically.
They make a sweet tart one that I really like.
All right.
The little chalk ones that have messages on them, not so much.
Yeah. And do you have a favorite Valentine's Day candy? Like, if you could pick what your wife might give you for Valentine's Day as a little treat, candy-wise.
Candy. Oh, goodness. Well, I may cheat a little bit on this. I'd go for the caramel Cadbury eggs.
Okay.
Because we're sort of approaching Easter season here.
Pre-Easter, yeah.
And I think you could get them now. But the Cadbury eggs filled with caramel, that'd be my go-to.
Did you see that Reese's unveiled a new Reese's peanut butter cup with caramel in it?
Oh, did it have caramel? I saw that it was bigger.
Yeah, but it has caramel in it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what do you make of Valentinus? Do you think how real is he to you?
I mean, it seems like there's probably some loose historical.
There's probably a guy who was a priest in Rome named Valentinus who was killed by the emperor for some reason in some Roman persecution of Christians.
Sure.
I think that's probably a fair statement, but I think that's as far as I'm willing to go.
Not even any connection with he was very pro-marriage or pro-love or something like that? Or do you think that could just be when they were looking to replace a Roman pagan holiday, they connected it with the death of Valentinus around maybe the same time in the year when this pagan Roman holiday existed?
Connecting it to the Roman pagan holiday, I think, makes the most sense to me.
Okay. So we shouldn't celebrate it then today?
No, I think it's fine. Yeah. I don't feel that strongly about it.
I don't either.
But yeah, we have lots of stuff that's holdover from pagans,
Sure.
you know?
Sure. Why not?
Not? Why not indeed?
Yeah. I mean, there's really nothing wrong with celebrating romantic love.
Mm-mm.
I mean, that would seem to be a good thing to encourage husbands and wives to celebrate that, or, boyfriends and girlfriends to celebrate that. I think that seems like a reasonable thing to celebrate.
Absolutely.
Even if now the greeting card industry and the candy industry have completely taken over the holiday.
Yeah, I mean, how do I want to phrase this? That's its own kind of paganism.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
100%.
Right. I mean, it just happens.
Capitalism.
Yeah. It just happens to be more palatable than saying like, well,
Sure.
Aphrodite,
Yeah.
What do you think of this topic in general?
I think it's time to move on from this topic is what I think. So, time now for This Day in Sports History.
All right, This Day in Sports History, February 13th. February 13th.
You're going to love this set of events.
I haven't read through them yet. I almost read through them earlier today, but I know part of our shtick is I don't read through them.
Oh, I've got some goodies for you, John.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see how awfully I do. February 13th, 1928. Legendary Norwegian, two of my least favorite words to read, by the way. Speed skater, here we go. Ivar Ballingrud
Sure.
wins the first of two straight 5,000-meter Olympic gold medals when he beats Julius Skutnub of Finland by 9 seconds in St. Moritz.
Yeah.
How did I do there? I felt like that one.
I think that was pretty good. I'm actually wishing there was an umlaut over the U in Skutnob.
Skutnob.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. I give myself like an A- on that one. I think I did fairly well.
I think you're good on that, yeah.
1952, future Am I going to hate this one as well?
I don't think so.
Okay, future world champion Rocky Marciano.
Yeah.
Did I get that
That's
right?
exactly right.
Knocks out Italian heavyweight boxer Gino Buonavino. Did I get that right?
Buonvino, I think.
Buonvino in the second round at the Rhode Island Auditorium in Providence for his 40th straight win.
Yeah.
Okay. Wowzers. 2 years later, 1954, American college basketball player Frank Selvey scores a record 100 points for Furman, beating Newberry 149-95.
So he outscored the other team by himself.
Wow. 149 is a lot of points.
It is a lot of points.
My goodness. And I imagine 54, that's without the three-point line.
Yeah.
Wow.
All twos.
Many years later, 1988, Heek Dressler long jumps world record in the indoor, 7.37 meters.
I believe that'd be Heike
Heike?
Treshler.
Heike? Heike?
I had a friend in my PhD program named Heiko, and it was spelled like this except for with an O instead of the last E there. So I'm going based off that Heiko. Heike.
Okay. And is this guy German?
I would guess based on the name. I could be wrong.
Okay. 2014, 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Japanese figure skater, Yuzura Hanu is the first to break 100-point barrier in the short program, 101 and .45, at the Sochi Winter Games on the way to the men's single gold medal.
Yeah. Yuzuru Hanyu, I think. Hanyu would probably be the way.
Hanyu?
That'd be my guess.
Oh, boy. Oh, we got another one. In the same year.
Yes.
Oh, my other favorite word to start this, Polish. Oh, gosh. 2014, Polish cross-country skier Justina Kołaczek. I butchered that one. How would you pronounce that?
I would go with Justina.
Okay, Justina
Kowalczyk.
Follows her Vancouver Olympic women's 30,000 classic title with a gold medal in the 10K classic in Sochi.
There you go. So out of those, John,
I think I'm all talked out. My goodness.
I mean, we're now going to be out of the football window because I think this is the latest Super Bowl ever in terms of date on the calendar.
Well, yeah. I think they want to add another week to the NFL, by the way.
Yeah. So we're done with football for this day in sports, barring some like off season or like a death or something like that. So, who do you like? There were a bunch of like in the 1953 All-Star Game, West beats East.
That's useless.
Was MVP. Who cares?
I kind of like Frank Selvey.
Yeah, scoring 100.
Putting up triple digits.
Okay, I can go with that.
I don't know.
It's
everything
also the
else
name you can pronounce.
Yeah, and everything else is Olympics, which I'm fine with.
I mean, Rocky Marciano was not, but
oh yeah, that's true.
But I can go with Frank Selvey. You good with that?
Tell you the truth, I was just trying to get through the names. I barely paid attention to what they were about.
Of course. All right, Frank Selvey it is. One thing you liked.
All right, so over the weekend, Andrea and I got to go to dinner for Valentine's Day, and we went to a great restaurant in Fort Wayne called Black Canyon up on DuPont Road. And I had, let me see if I can describe this, a pasta. So it was a bow tie pasta with like a bacon fettuccine sauce.
Okay.
With mixed in was filet mignon tips.
Oh, wow.
With blackened grilled shrimp on it also. It came with several pieces of delicious bread. Wow. And it was very, very good.
So not a low-carb meal.
No, but it was great.
Yeah. Yeah,
was
I'm not
great.
a big shrimp person. Everything else sounded really good. I'm not a big shrimp person.
Well, the shrimp was just on top. I mean, is Kate? Does Kate do shrimp?
No, she does
Oh,
not
okay.
like shrimp at all. It's unusual given someone who grew up in Boston.
Yeah, I was about to say East Coaster.
She's not a big seafood fan. Like she'll eat fish, but she doesn't like lobster.
Do you guys do salmon?
We will do salmon,
Okay.
but
It's not my favorite either.
That's about like the least fishy tasting fish there is. Salmon. Does
But you'll
not
do
have a
fish and
strong-
I've done fish and chips with you before. Is that a different category for you?
It is in part because the batter is good.
The batter's real good.
So when you batter something like the fish in that, I mean, and it's what cod typically I think is it
Typically, yeah.
what they do for and cod is not a strong tasting fish in terms of like
It's not fishy.
yeah. So
But Black Canyon.
Black Canyon.
Make a reservation. Take your wife.
All right, we should reach out to see if they want to sponsor the show.
We'd love it.
I'm going to go with this weekend. On Saturday night, we were enjoying a fine evening, and Jake and Autumn were over, and they decided they wanted to play us in euchre. And as a general rule, Jake and Autumn consistently beat Kate and I in euchre, pretty consistently. However, we won both games against them that night by identical 10-9 scores.
Wow.
Including a game in which we were trailing 9-6 and I went alone to win the game.
Wow.
It was a impressive performance by Kate Harmon and myself.
Wow.
To overcome historical disadvantages. So
Wow.
So that is my one thing I like.
Very nice.
Yeah. All right. We have talked Super Bowl, both the game and the commercials. We have talked about our good friend Valentinus, or the man, the myth, and the legend.
More myth and legend. Yeah.
Of Valentinus. We have talked about a number of athletes whose names John struggles to pronounce, but settled on Frank Selvey.
Yeah.
We have talked about the Black Canyon restaurant, and we've talked about a euchre victory for myself and my lovely wife. So I think, by definition, we have covered our various and sundry topics. And all that's left to say is, until next time, the Lord bless y'all real good.
Later.